Hello lovely people, it's Nicola back in the Stitches and Slapdashery sewing room. Have I been busy this week or what? April's stash down is working great. Phew! I have been toiling away like crazy and I want to show you everything. Let's start with what I made last vlog, which if you were here, you will remember this is Warren the Charity Bear. And I was so in love with him when he was done. And I ended up calling him Percy. I realized when I started making bears that I needed more safety eyes. So I'll show you what I bought this week as well, because yeah, I had to stock up on safety eyes and something else. So safety eyes, a little felt nose, but a bit of embroidery for the mouth. And Warren the Charity Bear is on Shiny, Happy, hang on a minute, Shiny, Happy something. Darn it. I'll link under the video anyway. Might be Shiny, Happy Sewing. And the pattern is way smaller than this. I enlarged it just by putting the printed template that they have to download on a piece of paper and just drawing around it bigger. And it came out this amazingly wonderful size. This is a Sherpa fleece. I had a chunk of it in the stash and it's lovely and snuggly and warm and fleecy feeling. And I was just so enamored with this guy that I kept on going. What can I say? I just couldn't stop for a while. So once I had made that one, I made this one. I'm not sure what I did with seam allowances on that first one. I think I might have gone for a 1/2 inch. I probably did the same on this one. I think they're about the same size. I don't know. This first one looks a bit bigger. So this one also has safety eyes, a nose and a mouth, but also an applique heart with some folk artsy stitching. And this one I called Pat, because, you know, why wouldn't you name them when they have so much character? So then I made this one. This one is the size that the pattern calls for. This is what Warren the Charity Bear is supposed to look like size-wise. So you can see the difference between my very first one there and this guy. Quite a lot of difference. Now, to save on stuffing, so I didn't have to use all polyfill with these, I used the trimmings from cutting the pieces out to stuff inside. So I wasn't throwing odds and ends into the garbage. They went into the bears. And so that meant that A, I wasn't throwing stuff away, and B, I was using less polyfill. So win-win. And then I called this one Pip. And this one has a little heart on its chest. Again, safety eyes, sewn on nose, and embroidered mouth. I don't want to give those away ever because I just think they're so cute. Also, I don't know whether I should give them away because they might end up in the hands of a very small child. And yeah, even though they're called safety eyes, you just never know. If some kid decided to really pull hard on them or chew on them or something, they might end up choking on it. The next one I made was with some fleece because I had bits of fleece in my little stash closet here. So then I made this one. I wasn't sure about this one. He had very, very tiny ears and arms. And at first I just used safety eyes and a little safety nose that a friend had given me ages ago. I didn't put a mouth on. I actually forgot to put a mouth on him. And then I thought, no, he needs a bit more character. So then I put the mouth on. So that one is really cute too. And then I made another large one in blue fleece. So this one, I think I probably At some point, I did a slightly different sized one. So I think, hang on a minute. No, this one is pretty much the same as the two first ones. And with this one, I did the muzzle option with the nose and mouth and safety eyes again. By this time, I was pretty much running out of eyes. But yeah, that one's lovely and squishy too. And of course, I had to make one out of this granny square fleece. This is a granny square fleece that I bought from Fabricland years ago. And I ended up making myself a sweater out of it, and my friend a sweater out of it. And then I bought more. And so I have a nice chunk of it still in the stash. But I thought, I really, really have to make a bear out of this. And again, it's got the safety eyes and the muzzle. And I used the lime. There's a little bit of lime showing. If you see the whole piece of fabric, there's way more lime in it, but this just has a little bit on the back of its head. But I think the lime stands out beautifully, really shows it off. I made sure to center that pattern right on the bear so that it wasn't all sideways. And then the last one I made was a kind of a medium-sized one in a purple fleece. Well, it's not really a fleece. I would call it a sweatshirting. So it's knitted on the front and fluffy on the back, a bit like this that I'm going to show you later. And I put a muzzle and a big heart on this one. And then I embroidered the eyes on that one. So I was really careful to make sure my seam allowances were safely tucked in and there's no bits to pull off. So a small child could definitely enjoy that safely. Yeah, and they're just so snuggly and fun. So I just had so much fun with that. I have 3 in the Sherpa family, and I have 3 in the fleece family, and then I have 1 in its own family because this is different fabric again from the others. Oh, that was so enjoyable. If you want a quick toy to make for somebody, for whatever reason, I do recommend this pattern, and it's so easy. I didn't even have to read the instructions for it. It's just, yeah, you just cut out the accessories you want, cut out the pieces, put the face on one of the pieces, sew them right sides together, leaving a turning gap, and hand sew the turning gap closed. It's done. So easy. So I have my things I want to talk to you about all lined up along here. So we're just going to go across the table and show you quickly what I have been doing in addition to making a whole herd of bears. A herd of bears. I can't, at this moment, remember what the collective noun is for a group of bears. That's terrible, isn't it? Fingerless mitts. Fingerless mitts made for Mr. Stitches because his were wearing out. And I use Lion Brand Heartland. I think the colour's called Yosemite. It's kind of a rust colour. I'll link to the pattern underneath in the description and in the pinned comment. And this is my own pattern. It's on my blog, which I don't update anymore, called Nicolaknits.wordpress.com. And I made them plain. In the pattern, they had like this lacy thing on the back of the hand, and obviously I just kept it plain for him. So the colour is similar to what he's had before. They will also coordinate with the scarf I made him a couple of years ago. So done, done, done. While I'm talking about Mr. Stitches, he retired this week. He turned 65 last December, and he's been counting the days down to March 31st. And I'm really glad he's finally got there because he has been such a hard worker, so disciplined, so responsible, and he really deserves this break now. And I really hope he lives many more years in order to enjoy it to the fullest. He got a greenhouse from his place of work as part of his leaving present. So that is currently in a box, flat packed in a box in our carport. And so he has to figure out a pad for it right now. So until he decides where it's going to go and has the level pad already, the greenhouse is going to stay where it is. But hopefully he'll have it sorted out soon so he can start using it, because spring is most definitely here and things are blossoming out. We're going to be losing most of our lake view soon because our walnut will get lots and lots of leaves on it and block our lake view. But I don't care because I love my walnut tree. Actually, I have two, but the main one is like 60 feet tall and amazing. Let's talk about acquisitions for this week. I wasn't necessarily looking to buy anything for an embroidery this week, but sometimes, occasionally, when I'm coming off shift at work, I will take a slow walk through the store just to see what's there and whether anything jumps out and catches my eye. Well, I had been looking again at the Pearl 8 cotton at AliExpress, and I thought, do I buy more Pearl 8 from there, or do I look around for something else? And I just happened to spot this stuff in Michael's. So it's Aunt Lydia's Crochet Thread Classic 10. And you get 300 yards or 274 meters on one little cake, or rather large cake, actually. So what I ended up doing was having a bit of a splurge, and I got this one. Where are my glasses? I have to tell you what these colors are because they're rather lovely. This one's called Mexicana Variegated. Hopefully you can see that despite the shiny plastic. So it's like bright rainbow. Bright rainbow. Absolutely lovely. I got Ocean, which is beautiful shades of blue. And Sherbet. Sherbet is shades of pink and green and yellow. Very springy, very seasonal for this time of the year, if you're in the Northern Hemisphere. And Pastels Variegated. So variegated pastels, and this one is pinks and blues mostly. Maybe a bit of green. Hopefully you can see that. And they're all 300 yards. And I think they were $5.99 each, less my staff discount. So not really that much of a splurge. And so I thought what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these home and I'm going to try one of them and just do a little bit of experimenting with some stitching to see if they work for embroidery, slow stitching. So I just threw a little bit of fabric with some batting together, and I did some stitching on here with a small length of the Mexicana. You know what? It works fine. I think it's a bit thicker than the Pearl 8 cotton that I have, but with the right needle, it seems to work. I did not struggle to get it through that fabric. I don't know, it might be different if I had like 3 layers or 4 layers of fabric, say a lot of scraps that were overlapping. But no, I think it's going to be okay. So I'm keeping them. And I will most definitely enjoy using them sometime. The other thing, because of the aforementioned bears, I thought, okay, all I have left is a couple of sets of really, really tiny eyes. Really tiny eyes. And I think they're probably this size. And I wanted to have a wider range of safety eyes. And I looked at some. When you go on Amazon, they have one that's something like 1,000 pieces. But when you look closer, some of the noses are flat backed. They're just for gluing on. They're not for actually inserting into the fabric with a washer on the back. And of course, 1,000 pieces includes the washers. So it's not that many safety eyes. It's only less than half that. But The price was good, but I ended up going for a smaller box because I really didn't need that many. So what I ended up with this set, I can't remember which Amazon shop it was. And, oh yeah, Asteron. Now I think Asteron is the place where I bought double-sided sticky tape from before. So this says 300 pieces, safety eyes, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so if you just search Asteron safety eyes, you'll see this set. So this is what you get. There are 10 compartments, and let's see, I'll just pick out the smallest ones and one of the smallest ones and one of the biggest ones. So there you go. You see the difference. So if you're making something quite chunky, or if you want very cute eyes, which are really large, those would be good. And whilst it was tempting to get the ones with coloured irises, then you're starting to get into a whole different range of things. So I just stuck with the plain black ones. And of course they come with the washers for the back. I assume these ones are for the really big eyes and these ones are for the smaller sizes. So I'm happy with that. They look fine. I think they're going to work okay. And the other thing I bought was a bit of a gamble. I needed more webbing. If I'm going to be making more bags for the charity organisation that I sometimes give totes to, or whatever, I'm going to need more webbing. The stuff that I really like from Fabricland is this one, and it's polyester and it's quite soft. And I really love it, but it is almost $6 a meter. And yeah, it sometimes goes on sale, but $6 a meter. What I ended up doing was getting one, again, I can't remember the name of the shop it was, again with an N, but I'll see if I can find it again in my emails, and I'll put the name of it underneath. I bought a webbing that claimed to be cotton and poly. Now, you know, sometimes when you buy things online from, say, Amazon independent stores or AliExpress, they often claim something that doesn't turn out to be necessarily true. Sometimes the fiber content is a little bit doubtful, but this one said cotton poly and they gave the width and the thickness, and I wanted a 1-inch webbing, and I thought I'm just going to gamble and get 10 yards of this black webbing. It comes very, very, very tightly rolled. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to, once I've finished showing it to you, I'm going to completely unravel it and see if it'll plump up a little bit, because it is a teeny bit thinner than the one I've got. So this is the Fabricland one with a nice bit of texture, and this is the Amazon one. They don't look a huge amount different. The weave on this looks finer and it is a little bit thinner, but I think it'll work fine. And I think because of the cotton content, it'll actually sew really nicely. I only have a quilting sewing machine, not an industrial or anything. So if I can save a little bit of sewing thickness with a thinner webbing, it's probably a good idea. So those were those purchases for this week. I also have to tell you about something that came in the mail. It's the latest edition of my Uppercase magazine. I've said this before and I'll say it again. This is the best magazine in the world. It is so beautiful. I've got a bookmark in there. I'll just take it out because it's going to fall out anyway. This is the latest issue of Uppercase magazine. It's edited and produced by a one-woman organization in Calgary, Canada. And it is absolutely jam-packed with amazing works of art and contributions by many, many people in different areas of arts and crafts. Every issue has a theme, and They are always just so beautiful. I haven't even had a proper look in here, but the beauty of this is not only in the content. The fact is that with each of these magazines, you could make art with the magazine. Once you have read it to death, you could definitely make art with it. I mean, wouldn't this be amazing to make a little, I don't know, miniature books out of or something? You could make some sort of collage or whatever you wanted out of the actual pages of this, if you could bear to cut it up, of course. So I was very excited to get this, and I have renewed for another year. So I'm going to keep on getting them. It's a quarterly magazine, and it's $96 for a year, Canadian. And it's definitely worth it. I would say it's definitely worth it. So we're going to get to the garment part of the sewing now, which you probably will have seen right here. I have had some interesting times. There has been a little bit of cursing this week and a little bit of reverse sewing with the seam ripper. But I think I have ended up with a couple of garments that are wearable, at least. So seeing as this one is on the outside, I will start with this one. This is a hooded vest. So the pattern I used was McCall's 5252. And what I originally thought I was going to do was do View D, which is that yellow one there. And View D has a hood, and it has a full-length zipper down the front and no sleeves. And then I thought, let's look in the zipper stash. Well, I have a very small zipper stash, and I only had a couple of separating zippers, and they were both too short. Actually, you know what? I ended up shortening the vest, and I bet you I could have actually used one of those, and I only just thought of that. Never mind. I think I chose the easier option, because what I ended up doing was making View F, which is the quarter zipper with the plain front. It's got a breast pocket for supposedly an MP3 player. I mean, a lot of people don't use those these days. A couple of pockets set into the slits between the two front sections here. And then I left the sleeves off and I added the hood. So I have a hooded vest. Here's the hood up here. A hooded vest with a quarter zipper, a seam across here. I got the pocket here. I have not put vinyl in the pockets. Velcro. I didn't put Velcro in here because I don't think I have any. If I decide that I'm actually going to wear this, I probably will put a cam snap on it. I could like make a feature of it, or just blend it in with that fabric as much as possible. So with the pockets, I found some of this grey mesh fabric here, which is perfect for lining pockets because I don't actually have any lining fabric. Like with lining fabric, it's more of a slippery, polyestery, shiny fabric. And I didn't have any. So the whole point of these April sewing stash down projects is to use what I have as much as possible. Except for safety eyes, apparently. So let me just undress this girl. And I'll show it to you a bit closer. So I'm not making any claims for perfection here. As you know, there's a reason why my channel is called Stitches and Slapdashery. But I've made hoods like this lots of times before, so that was easy. Let's work down from top down, shall we? Hood was easy. Sewing it to the yoke was fine. Sewing up the back was fine. Putting the zipper in was also fine, surprisingly. It was just a dress zipper, just made of nylon and number three. Number three, that's right, it is. The problem with the front is you will see that there is a seam down the front. That's not supposed to be there. I cut out the pieces at the end of end of a day when I had been to work and I was feeling pretty tired, and I thought, the heck with it. I've allocated the fabric and got the pattern pieces ready to cut this thing out. I'm going to cut it out this evening. So I didn't look at the pattern piece close enough, and it was supposed to be cut on the fold. So just before I cut it out, but after I had cut everything else out and only had one piece of fabric left that was just big enough, really, I ended up cutting it a centimetre bigger along the edge so that I could then immediately sew those two bits together so that it was one piece. I saved it. It's fine. And it almost looks like it's supposed to be there because it lines up with the zip. The line of the zipper just goes straight into the seam. Fine. I was going to go for my usual size of large, but then I realized this is a unisex pattern. And this is small, medium, large of potentially, there's obviously another pattern you can buy for the larger sizes that cover XL up to 3XL. And when I looked at how big this is the important thing to look at, guys. Finished garment measurements. Don't really look at a size. Look at the finished garment measurements and how much ease you want to have in the garment you want to make. Because when I looked at the large, it said that the width of the lower edge was going to be 51 inches around. I may not be skinny, but I'm definitely nowhere near 51 inches around. So what I ended up doing was going for the medium, which supposedly comes out at 47 inches around. I haven't checked that, but I have tried this on briefly and I like the fit. So I went with the medium. And I made the body 2.5 inches shorter because I was looking at it on her and I was like, she looks absolutely swamped in this thing. I don't know what size she's wearing, but this looks far too long. You know, back in the day when I was 30 pounds lighter, I always used to say, oh, I have to wear things to cover my bum. You know, does my bum look big in this? I have to cover it up. I have to make sure it's long enough to cover my bum. These days, it's like, no, I want to really maximum length to land at my tailbone because, you know, I'm a lot more accepting of my body than I was 30 years ago or 40 years ago, which is a good thing in my opinion. So I ended up shortening the pieces. There's always a line on the pattern piece where you can make a little pleat. You don't just like cut it off the bottom. You make a pleat in the pattern. I put a little bit of tape on it. And I shortened it by 2.5 inches, and that worked. So it worked out fine. Then the armholes. Okay, armholes. I ended up using this blue single fold. What do they call it? Single fold bias binding. The single fold bias binding is the one that's only been folded in on the edges. The double fold is when they have just pressed it all the way closed. So in other words, single fold once on each edge, double fold, folded it in half and then pressed it so that it's already got that center crease in it. So all I had was, I didn't dig too deeply, but I had the perfect amount of this blue and I didn't even pin it on. I just laid it on and sewed around on the machine, and it actually came out better than I expected. And then my top stitching came out pretty well. The armholes do seem pretty large. I don't know, maybe they've allowed for people to wear it over a sweater, perhaps, which is highly likely, I suppose. So these pockets took quite a bit of thought. Let me show you what it looks like inside. I will turn it inside out. There's probably places where I haven't even clipped all my threads off, and I certainly didn't trim all my seam allowances, so pardon my inside here. Okay, so that's what the breast pocket looks like on the inside. It's just 2 layers of that thin stuff. And that actually worked out okay. The thing that I found really hard to work out was this pocket. This is the one that goes across the bottom. You can actually put your hand all the way through. So it acts a bit like a kangaroo pocket, but an inside one, not one that's appliqued to the outside. And at one point, they tell you to do something. And I thought I did it right, and I didn't. And I ended up having to unpick there and there because I had sewn it on completely wrong. So after a lot of head scratching, I finally got it right. And then the bottom edge of the pocket is just enclosed by the hem. So yeah. And of course, after I had sewn the hem, which isn't brilliant, I thought, oh, I suppose I could have got my twin needle out and actually got a rather nice double line of stitching there. You know, if you have a twin needle, I don't know if you ever used one, but it leaves two nice, neat lines of stitching on the outside, and it looks overcast on the inside. It looks very professional. And you can just do that on a regular machine, but I didn't. It doesn't matter. There is quite a bit of bulk. So this seam that goes from between the yoke and this front section, it's quite bulky. I could probably trim off some of that zipper, but it doesn't matter. So this along here, I did try it on before doing the hem and the sleeve binding. And I didn't like the way it seemed really lumpy across the chest. But then after I had finished doing all the sewing, I got my big iron out and I filled it with lots of water, and I used a linen piece of fabric just as a pressing cloth because I didn't want to make my purple fabric all shiny. And it settled down quite nicely. So as long as this seam allowance under here stays pointing down and doesn't misbehave, I think it'll be okay. So on the whole, not too amateurish. I might put that on in a minute. You can see what it looks like on, because I haven't even seen myself in it yet. Let's talk about the other thing I sewed, which is on here, as you can see. So this t-shirt, again, not perfect by any means. I can see that the bottom hem is a little ruffly, but you know what? I bet you if I pressed that garment, it would look better too. This is Butterick 6848. And you know what? If ever you want to make any sort of garment, if you can make it in a cheaper fabric, similar to the one you want to make it with ultimately, it's a really good idea. Have a trial run, iron out all the difficulties, because if I make this again, it'll be so much easier. Ooh, I hear a little motorbike or something buzzing around outside. I've got the window open. It's such a beautiful day today. So this one I had not made before. I think I bought this one just before our local fabric land closed, and I just grabbed a knit t-shirt pattern and a woven t-shirt pattern so that I had something to play with later on. And that was a couple of years ago, so I finally got around to it. The one I went for is the V-neck short sleeve t-shirt, which is View B. Oh, those are both View B. So you can make this either sleeveless, short sleeved, 3/4 or full length sleeve. It's a set-in sleeve, either a round neck or a V-neck. Well, I love V-neck t-shirts, but I have never sewn a V-neck t-shirt before, and I thought, well, I'll never learn if I don't do it. So that's what I did. With this one, I went for the size 18. And what you got to remember as well is that the big pattern companies are still using the sizes from like 50 years ago. So don't think that because you wear a size 10 retail, you're going to be sewing a size 10, because that ain't the case. If I made a size 10, just to give you an idea, if I made a size 10 t-shirt, the finished measurement at the bust line would be 33.5 inches. So what I have to do is make the 18, which is a finished garment of 41, because I like a little bit of positive ease for a t-shirt, but not too much. So 41 is perfect. always, again, look at the finished measurements. It's always printed either on the pattern envelope or on the paper pattern itself. And so what I ended up doing, because you can see, can't you, how long this is going, like all the way down over her hips. I didn't want it to go all the way down over my hips. So I ended up shortening it by 3 inches. Yep, sounds like a deranged mosquito out there, but I'm assuming it's a little motorcycle. Sorry, got sidetracked again. What was I saying? Yes, because I'm only 5'4", and usually these are designed for someone at least 5'6", they're often too long. So I made the body 3 inches shorter. And then when I was doing the neckband, it's a separate neckband. It's a long thing with little V-shaped ends, and you have to sew it in a circle, and then you have to apply it to the neckline. And they tell you to baste it on and try it on to make sure it's not too gappy on you. Well, I'm so glad I did that. I actually took their advice. I hope you're amazed and impressed. I am amazed and impressed myself. Let me just say, doing the neckband took longer than the rest of the garment, complete rest of the garment, because I sewed the neckband as instructed. I basted it to the neckline and I tried it on, and it was so weird. It was like standing away from my body all the way down, and it just really, really gappy. And they do say this is an excellent pattern, actually, if you want to learn how to personally fit a garment to your body. I ignored just about everything on there because I wasn't going to faff about with darts and trying to adjust for busts or anything like that. It's just like, I'm just going to make this t-shirt. But when it came to the neckband, I couldn't get away from that. I had to make sure it was right. So I tried it on and I thought, yep, too gappy. And I sort of pinched it together here and I was like, I think I'm going to have to take at least 2 inches off this neckband. And I thought, well, I hope it's okay, because if I trim this neckband down by 2 inches, I have no more of this fabric, this jersey knit polyester purple fabric. I have no more to cut another neckband out. So I was really, really hoping it would work out. So I took it apart again, trimmed 2 inches off it. And yeah, I think that was right. An inch from each end. I'm pretty sure that's what I wrote on the pattern envelope anyway, because I want to remember for next time. And then I sewed it back together again, basted it on, tried it on, and it was so much better. So I sewed it on, understitched, top stitched it. I think I left all of the seam allowance on there because I was like, I'm just going to leave it. I think it's more likely to sit down smoothly if you just leave more of the seam allowance on it. When it came to the hemming of the sleeves and the bottom, I didn't really look to see how much I was supposed to be turning up. I just did it. The hem is maybe just a little bit lumpy. Like, I haven't tried it on again since making sure the neckline was right, but I think probably if I just press it with lots of steam and the pressing cloth again, it will be okay. So I was quite pleased with that. It came together very well. Oh, another place where I did not follow the instructions. One of the worst things about sleeves is that you have to put them into a hole and you have to make them fit. And I saw no reason why I should sew the side seams and then sew the sleeve seam and then try and get the sleeve to fit the hole. So I just sewed the sleeve to the armhole edge, and then I sewed all the way along from the bottom of the sleeve up to the armpit down side. Worked perfectly. Why not, right? It makes it easier and it just, yeah, worked great. Because of the having to stretch my neckband to fit my neckline, It does feel like there's a bit of puckering there, maybe a little bit of ruffling. But maybe if I give that a bunch of steam, that'll iron out as well. So that fabric was free. I'm pretty sure both of these fabrics came from my friend last year when she was clearing her sewing room out, her art studio, and she gave me some pieces of jersey and fleece and sweatshirting, and this is why I wanted to start using them for something. Don't normally wear purple necessarily, but this was an excellent way to use it up into something useful and gave me a practice run for making more t-shirts. I might make this again with a round neck, which will be a lot simpler, I think. The round neck is going to be, I think, a lot easier. I quite like the idea they've got there of making, I don't know if you can see that, is that glary? On this view here, they've shown it with contrasting sleeves, which I kind of like, which would be a really good thing to do if I wanted to colour block to use up small scraps of fabric. Small scraps, I say, and like, you know, half meters here and there, say, then that would be great. All right, I am going to pause this and I am going to quickly put both garments on so that you can see what they look like on. Hopefully they're all right. Okay, my messy hair is going to be even messier now. Okay, so this is what the neckline looks like. Make sure the bra's tucked out of the way. It sits way nicer than the first time I sewed it on, or not sewed it on, basted it on. Tacked it on if you're in the UK. So I'm really, really pleased with that sitting nice and smoothly. So the fit is good. It fits the boobs without lots of ease. I didn't want it loose around the boobs. I like it to kind of just hug the boobs. But I like it to skim the bulges here. So that does that very nicely. Skims that. Gives me a little room there. And the hem doesn't quite go to the tailbone, almost to the tailbone. So there, before my legs start to make me wider down there. So I'm really pleased with that. Sleeves are just the right length to disguise the bingo wings, or hopefully more prominent are the biceps since I've been working out. That was optimistic, wasn't it? So very happy with that. Now I'm going to pause you while I put the vest on. While I'm putting this on, you may have noticed that this t-shirt fabric is the same as this bear. I have coordinating t-shirt and stuffy here. Oh, I put my pink t-shirt back on because a purple t-shirt under a purple vest, you won't really see the delineation of the sleeve holes. Well, they are a slightly different shade of purple. I would not wear them together because that would just be weird. All right, so there's the hood. It's a good size, not too big, not too small. Goes the hair, fluffy, fluffy. Little quarter zipper, just so that you can get your head in there, because, you know, without the zipper, it would be kind of hard to get it over your head. Sorry, I'm just getting distracted by the neighbor. So this is the seam line, which I am not super keen about, right across the boob, which of course, presumably, actually, it's interesting. If you have the full length zipper, you're still going to have that seam there, because these two yoke pieces exist on every look. So yeah, this seam is quite thick. The zipper's fine, like the bottom of the zipper isn't the problem, but where these seams are. So the front, we have got a side section and a front section, which is supposed to be one piece, but of course I messed up, and a side section. And where the thick seams come up into here, it gets a bit bulky. So you can see that the medium is actually still very roomy. A lot of room in there. And this one actually is the perfect length. It comes down about halfway over my bum. So enough to keep the draft out if it was a little cool. And here's the breast pocket. So in the pattern it says MP3 player pocket. And when my oldest son popped in here the other day, he was like, "Oh, you can tell how old that pattern is talking about MP3 player." And I thought, well, I suppose you could put a credit card in there or something, but it wouldn't be very safe for a key because this side of the pocket is completely open to the bottom. There's no like downward bit under there. So if you put the Velcro on, as they suggested, or if I put a cam snap on there, it would hold something fairly sizable in there, but not something really tiny. It would just fall out. So I don't really think that's needed. If I was to make this again, I think I would just leave that pocket completely out of the way and it would be so much quicker. These pockets, I think, came out looking really good. You can put your hands all the way through there. And yeah, I thought it was going to hang really weird, but it's not that bad, actually. Wide shoulders on it. I mean, I have fairly wide shoulders anyway, but shoulders are quite wide. I suppose because it's a unisex design, they're allowing for bigger guy shoulders. I don't know. But yes, I think I made the right size. Made the right decision on that. And it was just total coincidence that I had a purple. Oh, I haven't put my microphone on, so hopefully you can hear me fine. Let me just put my microphone back on. I couldn't really wear my microphone while I was getting changed, could I? So yes, I made the right size for me, and I think it's wearable. So even though I was sweating and cursing and unpicking a fair amount, I feel like I've ended up with something usable. So result, good result. What I will do is I will definitely leave this t-shirt in my sewing room until I've had a chance to press it properly. So that's it for today. This is actually quite warm. I feel very warm in this, but it's not cold today, so I don't really need it. But before I strip it off, we are going out this afternoon. A friend of mine, the one with the amazing art studio and the very generous one who has given me so much inspiration and so much stuff to help me in my crafty, arty journey. She is turning 70, and her husband just recently had his 75th birthday, and they're having a friends and family party today. We almost never go to parties. This is very unusual for us to go to a party. So what I'm going to have to do is get myself out of my workout leggings and into something a little smarter and get going on that. I have no idea what the time is, but hopefully I'll have time for another cup of tea before I go out. And I bought a little pot of spring flowers, a little plant pot of spring flowers to take with us. They don't expect or require any gifts, but you know, I don't like to turn up empty-handed at something like this. So I'm just going to give her some flowers. She can put them either on her kitchen island or out on her deck, and I'll just add a bit of colour. She's like me, she likes a lot of colour. So as to what I'm going to make this forthcoming week, I have no idea. I was trying to think, what could I tell you that I'm going to work on next? But you know what? I haven't decided. I keep looking around and thinking, okay, I've got so much stuff. What could I make next? But I haven't made any decisions. So I'm going to get this edited, hopefully going to get it published tonight so that you'll get it up on Sunday and you'll be able to watch this. And then tomorrow, once I've got my housework done, I can start sewing something else. So I hope you enjoyed that little journey into my making week. I'd love to hear about what you're making and what you enjoy doing in your spare time. It feels very strange for me now that Mr. Stitches is retired. His last day of work was Tuesday, so on Thursday and Friday I went off to work and I was like, wow, this is odd. He's at home all day. Well, he has projects. He's been out shopping at hardware stores and garden centres and things. He's obviously embracing his retirement from the get-go. But it's odd to be the one who's now going out to work and leaving the spouse at home. And on Friday, of course, yesterday, Good Friday, it's a public holiday, but we retail workers don't get the day off. So I ended up going to work. And I think the store is closed tomorrow, but I don't normally work weekends anyway. And then we're open on Monday, and I'm working the evening shift. So no long weekend for me, but hey, I still get lots of time to make stuff, and I'm really grateful for that. So I hope you've had a lovely week. I hope you're going to have a lovely week and make the most of it. Have fun, and I'll see you again next time. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.